Good morning, Pilgrim. Another fine day here. The sky's blue. Like I said before, it's always blue in Hillsboro, Oregon. Beautiful Willamette Valley. This morning, I have a sermon by Charles Haddon Spurgeon. He delivered it at the Metropolitan Tabernacle in Newington. It doesn't have a date on it, so I don't know exactly when he delivered it. And I'll take us part way through it. I know not many today have the patience to hear a whole sermon from Charles Spurgeon. He read from 2 Corinthians 5:7, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." I think the apostle is here explaining how it was he could say that whilst he was at home in the body, he was absent from the Lord. And through what means he felt that this was not the state in which he wished ever to be. Having been possessed and actuated and moved by the principle of faith, he was not content to tabernacle in the body, which could only be dwelt in satisfactorily through the influence of the faculty of sight. The apostle, however, mentions here a great general principle. We walk by faith, not by sight. And in talking upon this text this evening, we shall, without pretending to go into it fully, speak, first of all, upon the posture mentioned, then upon the two principles contrasted, and then upon a certain condition, which is here implied. First, a word about the posture mentioned. Paul, speaking of believers, says we walk by faith, not by sight. Walking is, of course, a posture which implies the possession of life. You can make a dead man sit in a certain position or even stand in a chosen attitude, but to walk necessitates a possession of inward life. We're not all dead men walking. It becomes with us, therefore, a question in the first place whether we have the life of God within us in the sense in which the term walk is here used. The ungodly man doesn't walk at all. He hastens after his own lust, and he treads in the way of the flesh, but in a spiritual sense he is, and always must be, a stranger to walking, until God has quickened him. Until then he is a dead man walking. When we shall see corpses walking along our high roads, and pass them at eventide in our streets, then shall we expect to see Christian feelings, Christian emotions, and Christian character exhibited by unconverted men. But not till then. There must first be an inward life before there can be an outward sign of it. But walking is a position which always signifies activity. Well, you would suppose from the way in which some Christians deport themselves that their whole life was spent in meditation. It is a blessed thing to sit with Mary at the Master's feet, but we walk as well as sit. We don't merely learn, but we practice what we know. We're not simply scholars, but having been taught as scholars, we go on to show our scholarship by working in the vineyard and wherever else the Master may be pleased to place us. The Quietists and the Mystics are a class of people who have a peculiar attraction for the mind, and I suppose the mention of such a name as that of Madame Guyon, who among females stands at the very head of the school, will awaken in many of you many sweet remembrances of times enjoyed in reading her blessed hymns and her sweet and admirable life. But after all, it is not the highest style of Christian living to be a mystic or a quietist. We walk. Some Christians seem as if they always sat, but we walk. You would gather, indeed, from what others say, that the whole life of a Christian is to be spent in prayer. Prayer, it is true, is the vitality of the secret parts of Christian life, but we're not always on our knees, and we are not constantly engaged in seeking blessings from heaven. We do continue in prayer, but we are also engaged in showing forth to others the blessings which we've received and in exhibiting in our daily actions the fruits which we have gathered on the mountaintop of communion with God. Yeah, we walk. This implies activity. I would that some Christians would pay a little attention to their legs instead of paying it all to their heads. When children's heads grow too fast, it's a sign of a disease, and they get the rickets or water on the brain. So there are some very sound brethren who seem to me to have got some kind of disease, and when they try to walk, they straightway make a tumble of it, because they have paid so much attention to perplexing doctrinal views, instead of looking as they ought to have done to the practical part of Christianity. But by all means, let us have doctrine, but by all means, let us have precept too. By all means, let us have inward experience, but by all means, let us also have outward holiness, without which no man can see the Lord. We walk. This is more than some can say. They can affirm we talk, we think, we experience, we feel, but true Christians can say with the Apostle Paul, we walk. Oh, that we may ever be able to say it too. Here then is the activity of the Christian life. In the posture of walking, there is also implied progress. A man doesn't walk unless he makes some headway. We're not always practicing the goose step. We're not always lifting our foot and then putting it down in the same place. This may do very well for the beginners in the awkward squad at drill. And I'm afraid that a great many of us are still in that squad. But the Christian has got through his childhood, has grown somewhat. He should make progress. There are some who will tell you that they don't know that they have made any progress. Or if they do, if they don't say this, you can see that they've made none. They're as bad-tempered as when they first joined the church. They are as changing, as illiberal, as captious, as easily carried about with every wind of doctrine as they were at first. Such persons give some cause for suspicion as to whether they know much about the divine life at all, because they have the divine life truly in them, can say, we walk. Yeah, not the walking dead. We walk. They go from strength to strength. Every one of them appears in Zion before God. They are not satisfied with being in the way. They desire also to walk in the way. God does not say to us, this is a way, and then stop. But he says, this is a way, walk ye in it. We are always to be making advances. We are to be going from faith in its beginnings to faith in its perfections. From faith to assurance, from assurance to full assurance, from full assurance to full assurance of hope, from full assurance of hope to the full assurance of understanding, and thus onward waxing ever stronger and stronger and stronger. There is a progress to be made in every Christian grace. And he who carefully marks the terms used about Christian graces will discover that there are degrees in all of them, while each of them are degrees one above the other. Walking implies progress. The genuine Christian, when he is in a healthy state, may truthfully say, we walk. So, Pilgrim, final question. Do we walk? Are we walking, or are we just sitting in place? Well, God bless. Think on these things. Meditate on these things between your walks. God bless, Pilgrim. Have a blessed, blessed day.